Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dramatology Podcast. And in this episode, I'm going to be covering a Japanese drama that I am currently watching titled Learning to Love. This is a 10-episode drama that is airing on Fuji TV. I saw some Tumblr post about this and it looked kind of good, right? I heard people talking about it and it seemed like there was depth to it. So I was like, I'm going to check this out because there was something about the way people were talking about it that had me curious about the drama. So I watched the first 5 episodes and I have to say it is amazing. Like it is actually such an amazing drama, and it's really only a drama or a kind of drama that Japan can pull off because it has heart in a way that you can tell that they've put a lot of effort into the characterization and the development of the characters in this, and that's something that Japanese dramas are just very, very good at. So just to give a quick summary or synopsis of this drama. Basically, this is a love story between a high school teacher and a host. Ogawa Manami is a high school teacher that grew up in like a traditional family. She has a mom, a dad, and they are just a regular nuclear family, right? She's about like in her 30s, but she still lives with her parents, right? She has never really gone through anything that is major because she just has that support of her family, right? And a lot of like what she deals with is secondary problems. I'll call them first world problems. um that I would say the male lead does not have the time or has never had the ability to care about, right? The male lead, Takamori Taiga, also known as Kaworu, is a host, and hosts are a very interesting thing to me because I mean I don't live in Japan. I am not like in tune with that culture, so it took a while to understand the idea of this host. But basically, they're just these clubs where you go to and you get like romanced by either guys or girls, whatever your taste is, and Kaori is this kind of person that he is very good when it comes to communication. Like he has very high EQ. And I mean you have to if you're a host, right? Because it's all about making the customer feel like they are special. Even though there are tons and tons of people that they meet, right? When you're with them, it feels like they genuinely care about you and they are genuinely fun. They make you forget your problems. That's the idea behind them, right? But it's still something that I think people consider seedy. It's not something that is part of respectable society, right? And so these two people meeting was by circumstance because one of Manami's students, right, has been going to this host club and spending so much money there, right? So that's where it starts. It's within this and getting to know Kaoru that Manami figures out that he actually can't write. He can't read either, I think. And um he's never been able to because of his like disadvantaged background, right? And so she takes it upon herself to teach him how to read, and it is within this that they bond and they know more about each other and come to care about each other. And it's a very beautiful idea, right? It's a very beautiful idea because one thing that you quickly notice is how naive Kaworu is. Even though yeah he's a host and all this thing, he is still very young and he is still someone that the world has not been fair to. He has a terrible mother, and his dad is nowhere, has never been around, right? So he's always been someone that had to fend for himself, right? And so all this begins to matter to Manami, and she, comes to care for him, just as Kaoru comes to actually genuinely fall in love with Manami because she's, I think, the first person to, say that he's smart, say that he is not stupid just because he can't read. She understands him and she tries to help him, right? And so I think that the premise is very good. It's just so well thought of, right? And so when I watched this first 5 episodes, I was like, yeah, this is a very, very good story, right? And so far up to episode 5, they've done a really good job of like pacing this. I'll say that the general vibe of this drama is um healing, right? It's somewhat romantic, and somewhat about finding yourself and finding support. Sorry for someone like Kaworu that has no real support and no real love, right? meeting Manami, I think, is giving him that, is realizing that, all the things he thinks about himself, things that he takes for granted, that he assumes is just fact, is not the case, right? And so I think that it is almost like found family, right? It's just that, it's just the two of them, right? But that's the first vibe you get, even before anything becomes romantic, really, right? It is about these two people that are very different but somewhat similar in their way of thinking, right? With regards to the characters and the acting, I would say that the actors that play the main leads are very good, right? They go well together. The male lead is very handsome and very tall and kind of striking, right? It could be a model, right? And that it kind of makes sense that he would be a host, right? Like, actually fits the image I have in mind of someone that, would be popular in this business, right? Because he's just almost a perfect like male specimen, and you can see why he's popular. The female lead they also casted has a kind of like plain Jane look to her that I think they are going for, to kind of give you the idea that, like, oh, okay, she's just a teacher and comes from a cushy background. Even though, as you know more about her and you get to know her, you realize that her family too is kind of off. Our world isn't particularly safe or happy. It's kind of toxic because her dad is very abusive to her mom, right? Regarding the side characters in this, one thing I will say about Japanese dramas and what they do so well is bringing in side character stories and making you feel like the side characters are real and that they are not just there as a support to the main characters, right? They are not just there as a foil to the main characters, and here they do that well, right? When they introduce us to Momoko, who is Manami's friend, right? I think one thing that I did not expect was the fact that she was the other woman in the breakup that Manami went through, right? Because as we learn, Manami, got dumped by her boyfriend and she became a stalker, right? And we find out that it was Atai Momoko that was the other woman, right? And it's funny how they became friends after that, right? And one thing I would like to see, and this is a drama idea, I just want to see a drama where, like, we see that arc, right? I want to see how the main girl and the other woman become friends and what that entails, because it's a very interesting thing. That Momoko is obviously a girl's girl, and she comes to care for Manami a lot. Like, they come to be such good friends, right? And that's just a good idea for like a drama right there, right? So yeah, Momoko is well introduced and we can see how much she cares and is protective of Manami, right? Even though I'm a little worried because, like, we all know, and if you're not watching this, you might not know, but Manami is also seeing this man that is the son of her dad's like friend or client or something like that, right? So she's set to marry him, like that's her fiance and everything. And I have a sense that Momoko and that fiance are gonna be a thing. And back to what I said about the fact that they give supporting characters good like stories or just personalities. The fiance Yoji, I mean, he comes in and for a second there's a dick, right? He's obviously sleeping with another woman. I mean, that is not a knock to him because it's not like him and Manami are like official at the beginning, right? So I won't knock him too much for that. But he comes in and you can tell that like he obviously doesn't really care about Manami. He's doing this because it's gonna help his career and things like that. But slowly and slowly, I don't know if he comes to care for Manami, because I think that he's just controlling, because I don't like, this is always a thing in Japanese drama, like when the female lead will tell a fiance, that's never the male lead, of course, right, that she's doing something with the male lead, and the male lead is always some downtrodden or weird character, right, that people will not approve of, right? When she tells him what she's doing with him, the fiance always goes and like tattles on her, right? And so in this case, Yoji goes and tells Manami's dad, right, about the fact that she's seen a host, right? And I was just like, this guy has already said she's not as interested, like she wants to call it off, right? Because stalking is kind of weird and stuff like that, right? Because he was stalking her, right? And he goes behind her back and tells her dad, and I'm just like, this is so trashy, right? But still, I feel like I'm getting a vibe that they will make Momoko and Yoji the fiance, right? So a friend and a fiance, they will make them a thing because they seem kind of like they have a good rapport, and that's they I feel like they're purposely showing us that, right? So yeah, those are two characters that they've introduced other than the leads. There's also Kaworu's mom. Moms are always like a there is an issue, I feel like, in Japanese dramas, and they're always like the toxic one, right? So in this case, right, um she's, I guess, someone that remarried, had another kid, and she's just kind of abandoned Kaoru, using him as kind of like a cash like mule or something, right? And it's very sad to see that relationship. You can tell she obviously cares about her son, but like she's still very like tied to her husband, and keeps taking money from her son, right? And it's just very, very like off-putting, right? But I can tell that hopefully at some point she will know to divorce her like deadbeat second husband, and just like live on her own and learn to like get a job or something, right? So that's another character. The other character that we obviously see are Manami's parents. Um, they are interesting because I feel like they speak a lot to who Manami is, because part of, I think, the reason why Manami has troubles, I think, thinking about marriage is because of her parents, right? Her dad specifically, because her dad is very abusive to her mom, right? And the mom just takes it, right? She's used to it. I mean, all to stay in the marriage. The nuclear family is everything, right? And image is everything, right? So the mom has taken a lot of abuse, and it's very obvious to a lot of people, like, and he does it just anywhere, right? That is kind of just, it's, you can tell he's just used to it, right? And he takes her for granted a lot, right? I will say that I thought this would go on till like the end, and I'll have to just watch the parents relationship be terrible. But I like how in episode 5, when Manami's mom goes to see Kaoru, right, in the host club, she comes back home drunk, like just like dead drunk, right? And for once she's like free and open and talks to her husband anyhow. And I kind of like that because, for a second there we see the real her, right? We see her free, and yeah, I didn't go as bad as I thought. I thought he would like hit her, and I always thought I was gonna come, but he just seemed shocked. So maybe their relationship is something that, maybe she's gonna wake up and realize that it's not worth it, that she can just leave, and that will be that. So I like that she had that moment where, she had just a freeing experience at the host club, and she could talk back to her husband for a second there, right? So that was also nice to see. I think the last character I want to talk about is Manami's colleague, who we, at first just think is just gonna be like a one-off, one of those characters that will be snide about our female lead throughout. But oddly enough, like, you see more of him, and then we also find out that he is, gay, and it doesn't say he's gay. He says he doesn't like women, right? So we don't know what that means, but we see him kind of become a friend to Manami, and it's interesting how that builds up, right? And so, a lot of things are happening just because I think also Manami is opening up and becoming stronger, becoming more free, becoming more outspoken about what she wants and what she does not like, and I like that, right? I think the point in this drama that really sealed it for me, though, was the relationship between Manami and Kaoru, and seeing them kind of start to find each other and support each other. And even though they are not there yet, you can see that they will get there, right? I like how Manami is like she genuinely cares about Kaoru and wants the best for him, right? She sees more in him than he sees in himself, right? And I think that that's just beautiful. You can obviously see that she's falling in love with him as well, but the initial idea of just teaching him, right, and trying to help him fulfill his dream. Maybe one day he will become a conductor, is very, very beautiful. And I really like that. I'm sure they'll throw that plot away when they finally fall in love, and it will become out of the fact that, he's a host and she's a teacher. And I fully expect she will probably get fired from her job, right? But for now, it's cute to see that relationship and to see Kaoru gain some respect for himself, right? From that. And yeah, I mean, this story speaks to a bigger issue of like kids that, you know, do not have the support of their parents, do not have that cushion, that money to go to school. What do they become, right? And how does society treat them? Because it's kids like Kaoru that, when they are young, they need the support, and they don't get it, and they're the ones that become like this, right? I mean, it's very obvious also that Kaoru's case, he's dyslexic, and that plays a part in why he's never been able to like succeed, right, in academics and learn how to read, right? And when you add the fact that he comes from a disadvantaged background, all this thing just adds to it, right? I do have a theory too about like Kaoru's dad. I think his dad might be the owner of that host club, just because there's some scenes where they've kind of hinted at some of that like character with the mom, and I get a sense that it's him or something, like, so we'll see, because he also cares about Kaoru to a point where you're like, it feels odd, right? Like he pays attention to Kaoru more than I'll see other people, right? And so I feel like that's probably that secret right there. And maybe because he's gone to jail, he doesn't feel like it's right for him to tell Kaoru that he's his dad, right? So that's my theory. But yeah, overall, this has been great so far. Again, I've only watched the first 5 episodes, and at this point, I am worried that this is where it's gonna start going sideways, right? Because you can see that Manami's colleague and her students are finding out about like their relationship, right? And so we'll see how that goes, right? But yeah, overall, I think this is a solid drama. I am enjoying it so much, and yeah, I think you should check it out if you're not watching this. But yeah, that's really all I have in this episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your week. Have a lovely one. Bye.